What's up, guys? Welcome to Reviews by Hunter. That's me. I'm Hunter. Today, I have a review for you for the movie Final Destination Bloodlines. I just saw it a few hours ago now, and I really like this movie. This movie's awesome, man. Full transparency, I've never actually watched the prior Final Destination movies. I just never got into it before, but I heard enough good things about this one that I had to go check it out for myself. So, Final Destination Bloodlines, man, is a lot of fun. It's a horror mystery movie, okay, that pretty much follows this family that's being hunted down by death, which is like this supernatural entity that is trying to kill them. I didn't know why the movie was called Bloodlines, but we do find out. Also, there will be spoilers in this review. So essentially, the reason that they are being hunted down is because this woman, a character in the movie named Iris, it starts off with her having this vision of all of these people's deaths. She is at this like restaurant that is, I don't know how many feet in the sky, like back in the 1960s. Like imagine a restaurant like super high up in the air, almost like a glass or a box, and it's like a fancy rich people type of thing, okay? So she foresees that all these people are gonna die and fall out of this restaurant and like basically fall to their deaths, explode, blood splattering everywhere. One girl gets crushed by a piano, but she sees in her premonition that this is gonna happen and she evacuates all these people out of this restaurant called the Skyview and saves a bunch of lives that day. Well, what happens is that pisses Death off because essentially none of those people were supposed to survive. And also, Iris's family was never supposed to exist. Because they were never supposed to exist, Death is coming after them to kill them. Which then brings us to our main girl, Stephanie. Stephanie is this college girl that's been having nightmares about her grandmother Iris, about that night on the Skyview and all these deaths that happened that she prevented from happening. So she goes to find her long lost grandmother, but the whole family's like, leave her alone, she's crazy, right? And, you know, all the family basically thinks that Iris is just out of her mind, right? Because who would believe that without seeing it? Stephanie goes to visit the grandmother, and this was like the first gnarly death of the movie. Iris, in order to prove to Stephanie that she's not crazy, basically sacrifices herself, lets Death kill her. She's been surviving in this cabin all these years. She's found a way to read the intentions of Death, and so she can sort of figure out what he's going to do to her before he does it. But she gets impaled through the back of the head, and blood splatters all over Stephanie. It was brutal. It's kind of a jump scare too because it just happened so abruptly, but I thought it was awesome. So this leads Stephanie to trying to warn her family about death. Okay, she has this book given to her by her grandmother Iris, all this research about how to sort of see these things before they happen, but none of the family believes her, of course, and this is pretty much where a lot of, these brutal deaths start happening. Is Death, because Iris died, I forgot to mention this, Death can now attack the rest of the family. Her surviving prevented Death from killing the other family members because in this universe he has to kill in the bloodline order. So it had to start with Iris and then go down the family tree. But now that she's dead, it's coming for everybody, right? At first they don't believe Stephanie until Uncle Howard gets ran over by a lawnmower and the lawnmower like mows his head off in an epic blood splatter. Alright? After that, the family's still wishy-washy on it until another family member, Julia, gets like stuck in a garbage and a dumpster truck that comes around, and she gets stuck in there and the garbage goes to compress all the trash, but Julia's in there and her head gets absolutely pulverized. Alright, so at this point now, the family members believe her. Stephanie's like, okay, I can kind of predict who's gonna die next, I just don't know how to stop it. And most of like the third act is them trying to see essentially if they can beat death, if they can cheat death. And I kind of had that question throughout the movie too, like maybe they'll pull it off, I don't know. Well, they come across this guy who's one of the only known survivors of death. And he tells them there's only two ways that you can beat this supernatural entity that have been recorded in history. One is you have to kill somebody else, and then you will get the remaining lifespan that they had left. Already a very, like, just morally difficult decision to make. Number two, you have to die, but then if someone resuscitates you back to life, it breaks the cycle. I guess because you technically died once, death did its job, but then you're resuscitated back to life, it breaks the cycle, and that's another way to beat death. So they go the option of trying to kill one of the family members named Bobby and then bring him back to life. Of course, that doesn't go according to plan, and Bobby and his brother Eric end up dying in also horrific ways. And like that's pretty much what this movie is just like the way death kills people is it's like a domino effect. Like one thing affects another thing, which affects another thing, which then somehow interacts with this super dangerous object, and then that ends up killing somebody. And it's awesome, man. The deaths, like, I like physically kind of recoiled a couple times because I thought, man, that's brutal, man. Even my theater was kind of jumping, and there was a lot of like, holy craps, and oh my gods, just the way that people were dying in this movie. If you don't like a lot of blood and a lot of like kind of a little bit of goriness, you might not like Final Destinations Bloodlines. I like that this movie was pretty straightforward, man. I like that you don't really have to think too hard about it. You know what you're gonna get, but I think the director of the movie does a good job with. There's a lot of fake outs. There's a lot of scenes where you think someone's gonna die, but then they don't. Like the camera shot will linger a little bit too long on like a sharp knife, or linger a little bit too long on like a chainsaw, or something that's highly flammable, and you're like, oh, is someone about to get killed like that? And then it doesn't happen. Or maybe it sets up something down the road for it to set up to happen, because again, death is able to sort of like control the environment around these people that he's trying to kill. But overall, I really enjoyed this. It's a little under 2 hours. Just brutal kill scenes. Honestly, hard to pick which one was the best. They were all very, very good and just like, ugh. But if I had to give it a rating overall, I would say I give it like an 8.5 out of 10, just because it was entertaining. I really didn't have a lot to nitpick here. If I had to nitpick anything, it would be this. They tease that Stephanie has sort of gotten like the premonition gift that her grandmother Iris had, but they don't do anything with it. Like she kind of starts to figure out how to see what death is going to do before he does it, but she's unable to save anybody with it, and they kind of just forget about it within the last like 30-40 minutes of the movie. The movie pretty much ends where her and her little brother Charlie are the only survivors of this whole incident. Charlie saved Stephanie from drowning, and they think that they beat death. They think that Stephanie died and Charlie brought her back to life, but they didn't. They run into like this doctor at the end of the movie that's like, oh, well, actually, if that happened, she didn't technically die because doctor terms. And they're like, wait, what? And then it cues to like this train that goes off the rails and literally plows into a neighborhood. And these two, like, I think they were giant metal beams come from above as they're running away from the train and crush both Charlie and Stephanie. They both just splatter, die, cue the credits, movie's over. And I was like, that's awesome. It answered the question, can they cheat death? No. Death won. And very abruptly finished off the job that he started. And again, I like that they put that in there, that Stephanie, Charlie, Bobby, everyone in the family that was a descendant of Iris or related to Iris was never supposed to exist because Iris saved all those people all those years ago. And so death is coming after them like harder than ever. And it's just entertaining. I really recommend this movie. If you've seen it already, let me know what you think of it. As always, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you like what I am putting out for content, and let me know what other movies you'd like me to review. Thank you very much. This was Reviews by Hunter. I'm Hunter. See you next time.